So let's talk about if perfection in action is missing, how do we know that perfection in action is missing? So there are some other symptoms. So let's go for the symptoms. So if perfection in action is missing, so when perfection in action is missing, what exists? If there is a question mark, how do I know that the perfection in action is missing? And then for sure, whatever the symptoms I will put on the board, there is a possibility for us to relate ourselves with those symptoms. And the very first one is Kaam, K-A-A-M. It's a Hindi word or a Sanskrit word. That means desires. This means desires. So anytime you have desires, that means perfection in action is missing. That means the biggest obstacle between you and your enlightened state is your desire to be enlightened. The biggest hurdle between you and the enlightened state is your desire to be enlightened. As long as you have the desire to be enlightened, you are not enlightened. As soon as you drop that desire, you are enlightened. So that means perfection in action, if it is missing, what is missing? Effortlessness is missing. It seems like it's so hard for me to fulfill these desires, and it takes a lot out of me, and I become tired and exhausted after some time. And it seems like whole of my life is tired and exhausted because it seems like, oh my God, they're not ending, they're infinite. But again, if effortlessness is missing, isn't it that it's understanding missing? So do I have really understood what my desires are? What is the difference between understanding and learning? So understanding completes, but learning never. So anytime we say education is a lifelong process, that means when are you going to live the life then? And I'm sorry to say it in this way, because if it is a lifelong process, because only after completing the education about life, I'm going to live my life. But it seems like it's a lifelong process. When am I going to start my life? Next life? So understanding completes, but learning stays forever. Similarly, education, and the most important thing for us to study under education is the nature of self, nature of desire. But do we study this in our education system? Or we just study what is this? We say plastic. So what we study in the name of education, that's incomplete. That's just 50%, talks about external world. That means education is supposed to be holistic. Education is supposed to be holistic. But the kind of education what we have had till now, it's just external. The internal part is missing. We study always object, but we haven't studied the subject yet. And on top we say, like anytime if we need to, we say, it's our subjective understanding. So you keep your subjective idea with yourself, I'll keep my subjective idea with myself. And anytime if I need, I say, be objective, Roshan, for some amount of time. So we choose. Sometimes we say, be objective. Sometimes say, you keep your subjectivity, I keep my subjectivity. But ultimately, subject equals to the object. Ultimately, subject equals to the object. So what we have studied in the name of object, that was just half study of the subject. We need to feel it inside. So have we studied the desires in our education system? Again, is the question. Do we know what desires are? Okay, think of it. You have a desire and at the same time satisfaction. Think of a desire which comes with satisfaction. But that accomplishment stays there as bliss or peace for some amount of time, because then another accomplishment starts. We need not to solve it, because it seems like we are forcing a lot to solve it in the moment. So just leave it there, and you need to create a folder. And what is that folder? PC, pending confirmation. So we don't know what it is, but I'm leaving a statement, and the statement is, think of a desire which gives you satisfaction at the same time. Now, as soon as we have a desire, we move ahead to fulfill it. That means all of our efforts are there for what? To fulfill a desire.